Did you know that photography has been around for almost 200 years now? In that span of time, an almost 3.5 trillion estimated photos have been taken. To put that number into perspective, you would get that amount of photos if you took 480 individual pictures of every single person currently living on the planet. But what's the most famous photograph ever taken out of those 3.5 trillion? Time magazine has an entire list of what it deems to be the 100 most influential photos of all time, including famous photos like lunch atop a skyscraper, migrant mother, mushroom cloud over Nagasaki, Muhammad Ali versus Sonny Liston, and a man on the moon, among many others. In reality, the most famous photo ever taken is this simple photo of a grass-covered hill on a sunny January afternoon. Titled Bliss, the photograph used as the default desktop wallpaper of Windows XP has likely been seen by over 1 billion people and is thought to be the most recognizable photograph ever. In photographer Charles O'Rear's own words,
"It is everywhere, as we all know. We see it in so many places. It's around us."
Although some might argue that Bliss is not famous because it lacks the critical acclaim that many of the Time photographs, or say, a World Press Club Photo of the Year receives, Bliss's ubiquity and inconspicuousness make it so well known. Like O'Rear says,
"I have a theory that anybody now from age 15 on for the rest of their life will remember this photograph."
just doing a quick image search of Bliss will reveal thousands of copycat photos, along with numerous photoshops and parodies, cementing the photograph as not only an important landmark in photographic history, but also as a major aspect of internet popular culture. The frequent internet memes of Bliss have caused a sizable number of people to question the authenticity of the photograph, resulting in claims that the photo was digitally altered or that Bliss isn't even a real photo. However, besides some very minor alterations done by Microsoft, the photo you see is identical to the original negative. Also, this 2006 photograph taken by photographers Golden and Senby shows that the hill in the original Bliss photo is in fact a real location in Sonoma County, California, a little ways off of Interstate 80. So why did Microsoft choose Bliss as the default desktop background for Windows XP? The reason is actually in the photo's name. The Windows XP development team chose O'Rear's photograph because of its ethereal and dreamlike qualities, which they claimed evoked a sense of bliss in the viewer. The photo's dreamlike qualities are in large part a result of the camera and film used to take the photograph. O'Rear took the photo with a medium format Mamiya RZ67 camera, very similar to this RB67 medium format camera. By using medium format 120 film instead of 35mm film, O'Rear was able to capture much more fine detail in a more vertically compressed 4:3 aspect ratio due to the film's larger size. The 4:3 aspect ratio allowed O'Rear to capture much more of the sky and clouds along with the hill than he could have captured with 35mm wider 3:2 aspect ratio. O'Rear claims that,
"I think if I had shot it with 35mm, it would not have nearly the same effect."
If the photograph consisted solely of just the hill or just the sky, it would not have the same emotional impact as having both in the same photograph does. By having the calm rolling green hill paired with the peaceful wispy clouds in the same photograph, the photograph's calming effect is multiplied. This framing would not have been possible without the 120 film's 4:3 aspect ratio. The 4:3 aspect ratio also meant that the entire photograph could fit onto a typical computer monitor without any stretching or cropping, because at the time of Windows XP release in 2001, 4:3 was the most common aspect ratio for computer monitors. The brand of film used also added to the photograph's aesthetic appeal. O'Rear used Fujifilm's Velvia color reversal film, a popular choice for many nature photographers as the film was known to have very saturated colors, high contrast, and exceptional sharpness. The high level of saturation really brings out both the green gradient of the hill and the deep blues of the sky, along with making the small yellow flowers stand out against the hill's grass. Ultimately, what I believe makes Bliss so iconic and visually appealing is the photo's framing and lighting. The hill is framed with its highest point left of center and trailing off with a nice smooth slope to the right. By making the hill more dominant on the left side of the frame, most Western viewers' eyes are drawn first to the hill's peak and then down the hill's slope to the right. The hill's smooth, rounded slopes help guide the viewer's eyes from left to right, a movement that is very appealing to Westerners, as most read from left to right and thus typically look at photos or other media in the same way. The photograph also perfectly follows the rule of thirds, with a clear foreground, midground, and background, along with the break between the hill and the horizon falling almost perfectly in the center of the photograph. But what really makes Bliss such an effective photo is how the afternoon sunlight perfectly hits the front-facing side of the hill, giving the grass an almost golden appearance. The darker areas of grass, likely shaded by clouds overhead, give the hill a very beautiful color gradient and emphasizes the sunlit areas of grass. The slightly blown out clouds in the sky further add to the photo's dreamlike qualities, giving both the cloud and the sky a bit of a glowing aura. This all may sound like a load of bullshit, but all these small elements add up to make a masterful photograph that comes along only once in a lifetime. The Windows XP developers realized this, and that's why they supposedly spent more than $100,000 to purchase all the rights to the photograph from O'Rear. Although the true total Microsoft spent to purchase the photo is not publicly known, the amount has been confirmed to be the second largest payment ever made for a single image. In fact, the payment was so large that O'Rear had to fly up to Microsoft's headquarters in Seattle, Washington, to hand deliver the photo's negative and the required paperwork, because all available shipping services insurance policy couldn't cover the photograph's total price. Sadly, with the death of Windows XP in 2014 and Microsoft's new trend of using boring art of their logo as the default wallpapers for the past few iterations of Windows, Bliss is slowly being forgotten and lost to the past. Unlike the photographs featured on Time's 100 most influential photos of all time, you likely won't see Bliss showing up in art galleries or even online lists of famous photographs. Instead, it will simply be remembered as the wallpaper of Windows XP, or not remembered at all. Thus, the most famous photograph in history will fade away to have its only claim to fame supplanted by something else. Or, we can choose to remember Bliss, not just as a computer wallpaper, but more as an influential work of art that will stand the test of time.